Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world, I am so happy you are here joining us today for this very special edition of 30 Minutes to Merge. Welcome. This is a series for you made by developers alike, and we're going to be learning some really interesting stuff. We have a fantastic guest today, and of course, we have the amazing Matt, Beard of EDU, and his majestic beard will honor us with his presence in a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and just let Matt take it away. Everyone, save your questions for the end of the stream, where we will be popping onto the community for a written Q&A and an opportunity to win some cool swag. Again, thank you for joining us today. Hey, Matt, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Again, welcome to our third edition of 30 Minutes to Merge. So I'm pretty excited that we've been able to keep this stream going. It's definitely my pleasure to welcome our host for today's session, Gregor. So he's at GR2M on like all the social medias that you can ever find people on. And just like a quick intro, just like with all of our other hosts, just a quick rundown of who he is as a person. So he's got a couple of hobbies. He recently had triplets, so those obviously they're keeping him very busy. And in the before times, he liked to dance and he enjoyed cooking. But since having the help of a nanny with the children, he's definitely been spoiled by having lots of amazing food prepared for him. So he's not really ready to get back into the kitchen, but he's looking forward to it. He currently doesn't own any pets, but in and around his house, he has a bunch of turkey and deer. So every once in a while they come by, say hello, and then probably scamper off into the woods. His recent purchase, which is probably my favorite thing to ask people just because I like to creep on their Amazon wish list. He bought a big electric cargo bike. So it's got like this big old cargo spot in the front. He throws the three kids in, and then he just kind of jets around town, enjoying life as it is. He is super involved in open source. The last two hosts that we had were interested in contributing and were looking for projects. Gregor is super involved in open source and might be contributing or maintaining some of the open source projects that you are already consuming. Just like a quick rundown of the things that he's interested in and or involved in. He's been working on hoodies since like 2011. And he also wants to look to find ways to like lower the barrier of entry to open source and coding in general. His latest project is Octovert, but he's also involved in octokit and then the semantic release project as well. And then, as always, I like to ask what's an action that they would like to have that would automatically do something for him. And he's really big into home automation. And so his recent kind of action automation tool was to work on his billing and bookmaking because it's tax season here in the US. So yeah, for him, it's just kind of automating everything he can and using GitHub Actions to do it. And with that, I'd love for Gregor to take it away and introduce this awesome topic and show us some cool stuff.
Hi, Beard. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Hi, Andrea. And yeah, hey, everyone who is watching today. Thank you so much for taking the time. So yeah, I'll be building a GitHub Action today with JavaScript using octokit. And octokit is the official SDK and set of libraries to utilize GitHub's platform APIs. And I am the maintainer of the JavaScript octokit as a contractor for GitHub. So this is my homeland, and I will show you how you can utilize the stuff that I've built over the past months and years now to build GitHub Actions. Yeah, I think I'm ready to show my screen. All right, so the way what I will show today is actually a follow-up to another show that I did last week with Jason Langsdorff on a show Learn with Jason, where we built a CLI using octokit. And the CLI, all it does is it bumps a counter on a README. So you can run this command npx boop-gregors-nose, and then this counter will be bumped. And I definitely recommend you to check out this episode because it's covering other parts of GitHub's APIs. We've built a CLI, but we've also built a GitHub app that you can install, and then the GitHub app handles issue events and bumps this counter. And what we did with a GitHub app with JSON last week, today we will do with GitHub Actions, because GitHub Actions have been down last week for a moment, exactly at the time of the show. So we skipped over that part, which now gives us the opportunity to do it today. And I prepared this issue here on my help desk repository, issue 18, kind of as a guidance for me to not lose my thought. And I've created a repository, boop-gregors-nose, which is here. So my nose was booped already 7 times, and you can already today just run this this command npx boop-gregors-nose as long as you have Node installed. Actually, it works with Node 12 now as well. And yeah, I can just show it off right now to show you what the CLI is doing right now, and then what we will do with the action in the next 25 minutes. So the CLI is using GitHub's OAuth device flow. So it gives me this one-time code here. And then let me show you both. I have to enter it and grant access to the Gregor-nose booper application. And then it pulls in the background, and once it can exchange its own code, then my nose got booped. So when I go back to my repository now, it was 7 and it's now 8. Now when I run the same thing, and this time authenticate as a user who does not have access to this repository, I can use a private window for that. Oops. And just sign in as a test account of mine. Oh, okay, too far. So I need to copy this again. So this is gr2m test. At this time, it cannot boop my nose directly. Instead, it creates an issue. So if you run this command, this will happen to you. And what I want to do is create an action which automatically updates my README whenever there is a new issue. Okay, let's jump into the code. So here's our CLI code right now. I've installed the octokit dependency already with Node.js, and I've installed this authentication strategy for the OAuth device flow. And I defined an internal plugin to do the nose booping. And what it does here is it tries to update the file. So this is another plugin which basically routes the README file from my gr2m boop-gregors-nose repository. And then it has this API to pass in a function which is preset with the current content. And then I pass the current content to this boop counter function here, which basically uses regex to replace the current number and bumps it by 1. If this fails because I am not authenticated, it instead creates a new issue. So this is what we saw happening. Once it went through this path when I was authenticated as myself, because the token that I use has permission, write permission to the repository. And once I authenticated as gr2m test, and it did not work, so it created an issue instead. So this is what we've got so far. Now let's create a GitHub action. And let me create, let me show you what I've already done here. So I've just updated the README so far. So instead of just a CLI, it will now also be a GitHub Action. And instead of only using the CLI, you will now also be able to create an issue in the repository. And then it will use this, oops, this is actually wrong, path, this workflow to react on the new issue event. So first, let me fix that path that I just had here because it's not .js, although everything I do is JS. The GitHub Action workflow files are actually YAML files, so I have to use .yml or YAML. So let me create this file now. Boop YAML. Okay, here I will give the action a name and I just call it boop. And then what are the triggers? So there is an issues event, and I can define the types. I don't know if I get, no, I don't get type ahead here, but I think that the type of the issue I'm looking for is opened. You can see all that in GitHub's documentation. And I also want to be able to manually trigger the action for testing. And for that, there is a event called workflow dispatch. Okay, so next, I have to define the jobs. And the first job is just called boop, and it will run on Ubuntu latest. And it has steps. And in the steps, I first need to check out my current repository, which is checkout v2. And this is basically the name of the GitHub organization and the name of the repository. So you can go to github.com/action/checkout and you will see this action. And I have to define users. I also need Node because I have Node code or JavaScript code. So I need to use the setup Node action, and I can pass in some parameters here. And I think it's Node version and just say 14 because this is the currently stable version of Node. And next, I can just run my CLI. So basically, I can now put in any shell command here. So I would just do node and then CLI JS. Oh, I forgot one thing because the node modules folder is not included in my source code. So I first have to install dependencies with npm CI, which is like npm install, but it's more efficient because it only looks at the log file and downloads only the versions there. And I think that's it for our action. So let me try and just add it all and commit it. Boop action and push it. And see what will happen. So here is my pull request that I just did. So it has my new boop YAML file and it has the README updates, and that's it. So let me commit this to my, oops, I cannot review my own pull request. So let's just go ahead and merge it. I have to merge it because the action has to be in the default branch of the repository. Otherwise, it would not work. So now I can go to actions and I can select my boop action here. And you see this run workflow button. And this is because I added the workflow dispatch trigger. If you go into this repository and create issues, you can already trigger it and that will create a lot of noise. But for now, I just create my own run here manually without creating an issue. And we can just see what will happen. So here is my action run. Let's see if I got it all right. Okay, it's checking out my repository, it's setting up Node, it installed, it's now running my CLI. But, you know, I still use my CLI code. So basically, it still prompts me for my OAuth code here, which is funny. But also interesting, you know, I could in theory send out some kind of SMS or something for a two-factor flow using GitHub Actions. But obviously, this will become a blocker when I continue doing it. So this is not what we want, even though it's quite interesting. Let's just see. Yep. So my nose got booped here. Okay. Let's go back to the code. Let's check out the main branch and pull the latest changes in. So what we want instead is pass in an GitHub token that is already authenticated. And GitHub Actions provides the GitHub token secret out of the box without me needing to configure anything. So secrets, GitHub token. And then I will not use this one. I will just create a new file called action.js. And I will copy this, call it action.js. So this will be Gregor-nose booper action. It will use the same plugin, but we no longer require the OAuth device flow here at all. So we can remove this part, and instead of setting all these options for the OAuth device flow, I can just pass in a token directly, because the authentication token strategy is the default strategy that octokit comes with, and you can just set it off to a string, which is the token. And in theory, this should just work. And I happen to have this environment variable defined locally in my local environment. So I think if I run action.js, it should just do it without asking me. Yep. So that works because I have a personal access token defined in my local environment, which has write access to my own repository, obviously. Okay, so let's add this. Do not use OAuth flow in GitHub Action. And let's push it. I hope this all makes sense so far. You know, if there are any questions you think are worth asking right now, then Beer, just interrupt me. Oh, I have to pull changes first because, of course, my nose booper actually created a commit here. The boop. So these are commits created by my CLI. Okay, so now I can push my local changes after I pulled. Now, let's see where we are. So here's my first boop. This time, let's create a new issue to see if that works. Hey ho, issue here. And let's see if my boop action got triggered. Yep, it did. So this was manually run, and this one was triggered by the issue event, as you can see. So it sets up the job, and here you can see that it passed the GitHub token environment variable, and it just worked. It's beautiful. The things just work. I pray to the demo gods today, I think. And you see, when I look at commits, the very last commit was now not contributed by my user account, but instead by GitHub Actions. All right, so this is it, I think. Now, it's fun to build a GitHub action that just you are using, but it's much more fun to make it available to others so you can boop my nose as well. And I think for that, I will just create a new repository really quick. Oops. So let's call it boop-gregors-nose test. And I will just get back to it in a moment because I want to use the repository. Oh, I forgot to create a file. Okay, well, I guess I will just copy and paste this code really quick. Okay, so now we have our repository, and now what I want here is to add a new file and call it GitHub workflows boop-gregors-nose YAML. And in here, again, I have to define the name, boop-gregors-nose. I have to define the triggers. So for now, I just use the repository dispatch again, but basically I could do anything. Like if an issue was created, if someone started to watch or start my repository, there are endless triggers. You can look them all up on GitHub's documentation. Okay, and then jobs, boop, and this time I don't need to check out anything. Oh wait, I have to do, I think it's called runs on Ubuntu latest. And I have to define the steps. And then users, what I want is basically use this. I don't know if I have any syntax error here. We shall find out. So this is another repository. Let's see. Okay, there is a syntax error. Of course there is. Let me see what I got. What's my problem here? Okay. Let me see my boop YAML here for comparison and see what I've done wrong. So I have jobs, boop, runs on Ubuntu latest, steps. I actually don't know what's wrong. So if someone can figure it out, you can send me a pull request. Let me go back to this one. If I want to publish my GitHub action, then I need to define what it is with an action.yaml file. So in an action.yaml file, I basically define what is this action, what's its name, and so on. And I prepared something here. So you define a name, a description, branding. This is all documented on github.com as well. And you can define inputs. And here I want to ask for a personal access token, because if you use your repository's GitHub token secret, it will not be helpful because this token is scoped to your repository only for security reasons. So what you will have to do is to actually create a personal access token and set it as a repository secret and then pass it here. And I think that's it. So action YAML, you just push it directly. Pull and push. Okay. And now in my test repository, I'm a little surprised because usually it would tell me what's wrong, but it doesn't, I think. Okay. So let me just continue and show you how it should have worked. Basically in here, oh, steps. Oh, that's the problem. Cool. Missing version. Okay, so for now we do master. And then I do with, and then personal access token. And I have to set this to secrets hat. So that should work. And now I go in settings and secrets, and I will define the path secret here. And now, if you kindly could stop sharing my screen for a moment, I will use my test account here. So even if it leaks, there's not much harm you can do. But so basically, I go github.com, settings, tokens, new. I set the public repo scope and copy it. Okay, you can show my screen again. So here is now my path secret in this repository, which I am using. Oops. Which I am using in my workflow here. And now I hope that I can boop my nose. Yeah, action is showing up here now, but I don't see the repository dispatch event, so there's still a problem, it seems. Let me edit it again. Maybe it will show me. Oh, not repository dispatch, workflow dispatch. There is repository dispatch as well. It's something else. It's more useful for GitHub apps. Workflow dispatch is what we want. Okay, hallelujah. So now we basically run the action from this other repository, and it will fail. I have to rush a little bit now because of time. It will fail because I do not have the dependencies. So it does not do the whole npm setup and npm install and so on. Oh, it also cannot resolve master because it's main. Okay. So let me fix that first. And run it again. And while this is happening, and I will show you the output of it in a moment, I will show you what we need to do next. We need to build our whole code into a single file so that all dependencies and all the code is included as you publish it. So I will npm install Vercel ncc. And now I can use, I can create a build script. And let me see. Oops. I think I have the code somewhere. Okay, here. So I need to build this into dist, and I will ignore the dist folder. And then I can now run build, and it will create the dist folder with a single file binary, which is what we want. And then in our action YAML, oh, this is also why it would fail. It's already pointing to the dist file. So this is one thing. And the other thing I want to show you is how to automate this whole building and releases. And for that, I will create another GitHub action. Oops, add file, and just call it release. And this is something you can basically copy paste for yourself. So we don't need the npm token because we do not publish to npm. And then I think this should just work. Let me, hold on, there is something. I think I have to. I'm not sure if I have to do this, but I actually am not sure. I don't think I have to do it. So basically, I run semantic release, which automates the release process for me. So let's create that. And then to prevent it from trying to publish to npm, I will set this to private. True. And now this version here basically is new because it will be set automatically for me. Okay, if everything went well, and I do like a semantic version commit here with a feed prefix, then it should release a version for me. So we have now release. I'm nearly to the end if everything goes well now. So this is the semantic release thing. It basically parses all the commits since the last release, which is a Git branch. Something failed. Okay, I think I know what failed. I'm sorry. Main. Oh, I know. So basically, by default, GitHub semantic release is still using the master branch to release automatically. So I have to define branches main here. I forgot about that. This is worth showing because GitHub Actions are tricky when you do them with Node.js. As soon as you have dependencies, you will have this trouble that you have bundled it up every time you want to publish a new version. So it is really worth to investing some time and automating the whole thing. So once you have this setup done, all you have to do is use semantic commit messages. So use the FEAT colon prefix or the FIX colon prefix for features and releases. And then it will just automate the entire release process for you. So create Git tags, it will create GitHub releases, it will do release notes, and it will push to a branch called v1, which then I can reference here in my code, where I utilize the action. And this way, I don't need to point to the main branch because things can break. I can point to v1, where I am sure that I will receive all updates, but I will not receive any breaking changes. Because as soon as there is a breaking change, I will publish to v2 in this repository. So this time it seemed to have to work. Let's hope. So we do a v1 release here. This is what semantic release just did for me. And this is the commit I just had. And I had some other commits before that it also parsed because it was the first release. And it now, when I go to v1, oh, it doesn't have the dist folder. So I do need, you know what? I think I just remove it from here. Like this. So I don't need the dist folder here. Remove git ignore. So everything worked, but it didn't push the dist folder because it's in my git ignore. Hold on. Fix publish dist folder. Okay, so while that happens, okay, I have set this up correctly the way I want. The way to publish, like once your action is working, the way to publish it to the marketplace is pretty easy. You have to go to your release here and then just edit the release, and it will already ask you, hey, this looks like a GitHub action. Do you want to publish it to marketplace? And I say yes. Boop. Oh, there is an action called boop already. So let me change that really quick as well. So boop-gregors-nose and rename action. Okay. Let's hope that this release here will work. Oh no, it's not picking up. Is something going on with GitHub Actions again? Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. So this should now release version 1.0.1 because of the fix release, fix commit that I did. There we go. Okay, it didn't do anything because I already pushed another commit and it doesn't want to come into any conflicts, so it's smart enough to realize I better wait. But the other one just finished, so we have v10 now. Now let's go to edit release, publish. That looks good. Category, well, what is this? Open source management. Okay, this is optional, and then it just, this is just my release, initial release to marketplace. Okay. All right, and now I can go to marketplace and you can all check out my GitHub Action and install it. And I should add some users instructions here, but basically we should be able to finish this whole show to use the action from my other repository now. So again, I use the workflow dispatch trigger, but I could use any kind of trigger I want. There are hundreds of them, I think. Like probably 50 different events, and within these events, there are hundreds of different actions. All right, so something didn't work, unfortunately. So it looks like we still don't have the disk code. And I'm embarrassed because I did this 1,000 times before, but it's still... Okay. I know. I think we are running out of time. We can stop here, but basically what I need to do is to git add dist and then git commit release, and I think that should be it. Why is it? Okay. I'm not sure why it's complaining about the syntax right now. But I think that in order for committing, I have to go to the actions checkout, and there is a information here what I need to do before I can commit. I need to basically configure my Git user email. Okay, so that looks good. I just add dist and then release. And I hope this will work now. All right. Am I still on a stream even? I think so. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me, Yal. Thank you so much. All right. So now we are waiting for our 1.0.2 release, and it never gets old for me to just watch these releases automatically happening, and I no longer need to create Git tags. I don't need to create change logs. I don't need to create GitHub releases or anything. But let's hope this actually works this time. All right, that seemed to have worked. Let's go to V1. Okay, now we have the dist folder. So it would be beautiful if the demo gods would permit me this final success here, where I can run a GitHub action I just created from scratch with JavaScript and octokit, published to the marketplace, and now used from another repository in order to boop my nose. Oh, okay, that looks good. What happened? Oh no, some error here that I will have to investigate. That I'm not sure. Oh, hold on. I think I actually know what the problem is. So I still use the GitHub token here, and I cannot. I use now an action input, and for that I will install actions core. And I think it's just like this. And then core get input and then personal access token. I forgot that part. So you remember I defined the personal access token input here, and it has to be set, otherwise it will already fail early on. But I also have to use it. So now I'm using this input here as my token instead of the GitHub token environment variable, which doesn't exist. So fix use personal access input for auth. Thank you, Bill, with mheap. Very kind of you. Okay. So again, we have to wait for the release to finish, do its thing. I am optimistic that this will work now. Okay, these seem to have worked. So, and again, I will automatically retrieve the last version of the action because of this branch hack that I'm using for somewhat semantic versioning. All right. Yay! Okay. So it created an issue because I used a token from gr2m test. So it created this issue, which now should have triggered my boop action in this repository because a new issue was created by gr2m test. So after a moment, it will bump my nose. And there we go. And that's all I wanted to show you today. Thank you so much for bearing with me. And I'm looking forward to your questions. And yeah. Happy booping.
Oh my goodness, that was awesome. So,
sorry for all the hiccups. I should have come more prepared. But you know,
it was great.
I shouldn't have praised the demo gods too early in the show. That was my mistake this day.
No, it was very cool for you to try kind of troubleshoot your code as you were going along. On the 30 Minutes to Merge show, we do have a history of things not going exactly to plan, so it was good to see that that continued. We've kind of had some hiccups along the way, but that's always kind of some fun because then we get to see our guests kind of struggle to figure out what they need to do to get it to work, and kind of shows that everyone's learning all the time. So I want to remind everyone that we are now going to be moving from the stream over to our GitHub community to answer any questions that people might have, either related to the show that we just had or in general. And Yeah, again, Gregor, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really cool for us to watch you boop some noses. And yeah, so yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to jump into the link that Andrea just posted in Twitch chat. And Gregor and I will be answering questions as they come up for the next 15 minutes or so. And then you can always follow Gregor on Twitter at gr2m. And I'm also at beard2edu. I don't post ever, but you know, it's always nice to pretend that I have followers. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for attending. I know Andrew's popping in to say goodbye.
I am. Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. I just want to share the slide. So this is where we're going. I'm going to kick you off, Beer. I'm sorry. See you in a bit. So we are going to be joining both Beer and Gregor on the GitHub community. And you can definitely reach us at GitHub community, GitHub.community/t/30 minutes to merge GitHub Automation. You'll be able to see the event post there, and the Q&A itself is going to take place at the very bottom of that event topic. So join when you can. And also, I have an invitation for everyone, and that's what kind of picked out earlier when I was trying to tee it up. And it's tomorrow we're going to be hosting an AMA about the state of the Octoverse report. So if you're ever wondering how all those numbers get to that fantastic report that teaches us about productivity, where are we working, developers, what they're doing to improve their workflows, etc., this will be a really exciting AMA for you. So without further ado, I will see you on the community. We'll be joined by Gregor. I'm going to leave the slide with a QR code. So as soon as my face and this header is gone, you'll be able to see it. Thank you all. We'll wait for you in the community. Have a great day. Thanks for joining.